Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're exploring a seriously fascinating universal truth about early retirement. Have you ever actually wondered exactly how much money you need to invest to buy back your freedom? And I don't mean in some vague, aspirational way, but down to the exact mathematical timeline. Well, that is exactly what we're mapping out today. We're going to visualize the precise timeline for reaching true financial independence, and as you'll see, it is based entirely on your monthly savings rate. Okay, let's dive right into this. How much money does it actually take to buy your freedom? It's a massive question, right? But before we reveal the incredibly simple math that answers it, we really have to look at the surprisingly scary baseline of the average American lifestyle today. Because unfortunately, most people are starting from a place that makes freedom nearly impossible. Imagine walking into an average room in the United States right now. The savings breakdown of the people in that room paints a pretty startling picture. 34%, that first massive chunk of the population, have $0 saved, literally none. Another 35% have less than $1,000 to their name. When you put that together, you're looking at roughly two-thirds of Americans who are essentially one unexpected bill or one single missed paycheck away from total bankruptcy. But wait, how can that be true when you constantly see people driving brand new Teslas and taking these lavish vacations? Well, as the saying goes, they always seem like they're doing so well. It's like they're living secret lives. And the truth is, many of them absolutely are. It's the result of a consumerism culture where we're constantly pressured into spending money we don't have to buy things we don't need just to impress strangers we don't even know. To escape this trap, step one is completely breaking out of that spend mentality. And that perfectly brings us to FIRE. Financial independence, retire early. What's really interesting about this concept is how it redefines the word retirement itself. Forget the image of sitting on an old wooden rocking chair just waiting to get old and gray. That is not what we're talking about here. True retirement, the FIRE movement kind of retirement, is about securing ultimate freedom and choice. It's about having the option to wake up and do exactly what you're passionate about every single day without relying on a corporate paycheck. So the crucial point is figuring out the math to actually get there. To prove just how universally applicable this is, we're going to set up a very simple baseline scenario, an income of just $1,000 a month. Keep in mind, this math applies to absolutely everyone, whether you live in the US, Europe, or anywhere else, and no matter what investment platform you use. The absolute dollar amounts literally do not matter. The percentages do. All right, let's start this escalating countdown with a depressingly common scenario, a 5% savings rate. It might sound like a responsible start, setting a little aside, but on our $1,000 a month income, you're only putting away $50 a month. If you take that 5% and invest it into an asset paying you back, the math is brutal. It will take you 66 years to retire. 66! By the time you get there, you'll be old, gray, and wrinkly, and honestly, Social Security might not even exist anymore. Unfortunately, this is the most accurate representation of the average lifestyle today. So, what happens when we increase our effort? Let's move to a new scenario and see how this builds. Let's say you decide to be a bit more frugal and bump that savings rate up to 15%. You're now saving and investing $150 a month. Surely that makes a massive dent, right? Boom. Just by moving to 15%, you've shaved over 2 decades off your timeline. You're down to 43 years until retirement. It's a huge improvement, definitely getting you out of that 60-year trap. But let's be real, 43 years is still a really long time to be tied to a desk. We can do much better. Let's really crank up the momentum now. We're getting serious, aiming to keep roughly a third of your income, a 30% savings rate. At 30%, you're saving $300 a month, and the timeline drops to a very doable 25 years. This is a highly admirable target. Imagine starting at 25 years old and being completely financially independent by 50. That is the power of compound acceleration right there. But what if we push it even further? Now we're crossing into extreme savings territory. This is the kind of discipline that radically alters your entire life trajectory. What happens if you aggressively keep 50% of everything you make? Half your income saved and invested every single month. This is where the math becomes absolutely thrilling. Saving half your income plummets your mandatory working years down to just 17. 17 years to buy your total freedom. You could work a job you don't even particularly like for 17 years, knowing there's a definitive guaranteed light at the end of the tunnel. And finally, let's unveil the mind-blowing ultimate goal for the most aggressive savers out there. The absolute holy grail of the FIRE movement. a 65% savings rate. Just 10 years, one single decade. If you're a dual income household earning a solid salary, and you can simply resist the urge to buy fancy things just to show off to society, saving 65% of your income buys you total financial independence in a mere 10 years.
Now, how does this actually work under the hood? Well, it relies on the concept of a safety margin. Think of your invested money like a rapidly growing tree. As you withdraw money to live your life, chopping the wood, the tree is organically growing new branches faster than you can chop them down. It never dies.
To make that incredibly short 10-year timeline possible, there are 3 very specific mathematical assumptions making that tree grow. First, we assume your investments make 5% returns after accounting for inflation, which the stock market historically does. Second, you only withdraw 4% to live on, say from dividend-paying stocks. Because your growth outpaces your withdrawal, the principal money you originally invested never actually runs out. Your golden goose stays alive forever. And this brilliantly illustrates the most mind-bending fact of all. The numbers are completely relative. It doesn't matter if you make $12,000 a year or a cool $1 million a year. Absolute dollar amounts do not dictate your freedom timeline. Your relative savings percentage does. If you save 65% of $12,000, it takes 10 years. If you save 65% of $1 million, it still takes exactly 10 years. Which leads us to a pretty fascinating comparison. Think about the average worker versus the high-income millionaire who spends every dime they make on Ferraris and huge mansions. If both of them stop working tomorrow, they both go bankrupt. They both live in a cage. The millionaire's cage is just a little more glittery and shiny than the average worker's cage, but they're both still trapped. True wealth is someone who isn't bound by those things, someone who actually buys their way out of the cage entirely. So the quickest way to unlock that cage door isn't necessarily doubling your income. It's by cutting costs and saving. Because when you do that, you trigger what we can call the ultimate cheat code, the double positive effect. Step 1, by cutting costs, you suddenly have more money to save and invest right now. But step 2 is the real kicker. By learning to live on less, the actual total amount of money you need to generate in the future to survive drops dramatically. You're literally accelerating your freedom from 2 sides simultaneously. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a direct challenge. Look closely at your own life. Are you building a glittery cage, or are you building an escape route? Calculate the math for yourself. What is your true savings percentage right now, and exactly how many years are left on your clock until you buy your ultimate freedom? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this sparks your own journey to true financial independence.